had tilled the soil and grown crops for generations, lost everything, and filed for bankruptcy. The stress was too much for some. One died of a heart attack, another took his own life. Out of that aftermath, the House Resources Committee, then chaired by Jim Hansen of Utah and Richard Pombo of California, went to work with me trying to find short-term solutions and work on long-term. Principals in the basin, as you heard, found common ground where they'd been apart, and they reached agreements that they have brought forth, the KBRA and the KHSA. However, it's clear to me that the agreements as written do not have the support of those in charge of the Resources Committee today. The gentleman from California, Mr. McClintock, and the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Hastings, have made that clear. There's little point then in spending more of the taxpayers' money, especially during these dire fiscal times, on an effort that's unlikely to move forward in its present form. And given that reality, I will support the gentleman from California, Mr. McClintock. The House's decision today, however, will not lessen the threat to irrigated agriculture in the Klamath Basin. It does not add to water storage. It does not provide protection to the ratepayers, and it does not resolve the water rights disputes. It does mean, however, the burden of finding a timely and effective solution to the conflicts of the Klamath Basin now resides with the Resources Committee and those who rejected these plans, because there's no escaping the fact that the problems remain, the conflicts grow, and the courts call all the shots absent legislative action.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Arizona.
I would like to yield a minute to the gentleman from Oregon, Mr. Rader.
The gentleman from Oregon is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to associate myself with the remarks of the gentleman from California and Arizona. This has been a hard-fought battle in my state. In a prior lifetime, I was a legislator in charge of the appropriations process for my home state of Oregon. And for the 10, 12 years I was in the state legislature, this area, this internecine warfare in the Klamath Basin over the use of the water resources was a really hot topic. As a result, our state and the federal government were spending millions of dollars in lawsuits. This agreement to have a study to bury that hatchet and come to agreement is absolutely critical. We have tribes, ranchers, farmers, local officials have all come together to say, let's solve this problem together at the regional level. We in Washington, D.C. should not be getting involved. This is a long-fought battle that finally has come to some accord. We should let it happen and stay out of Oregon and California's business. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from California.
Does the gentleman have any other speakers in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, who has the right to close?
The gentleman from Arizona.
Oh,
I reserve my time.
Hold. Gentleman from Arizona.
I reserve my time.
The gentleman
I
reserves.
do not have any further speakers.
Gentleman from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The gentleman from Arizona is disingenuous when he says that we didn't know this was about the Klamath when we adopted the funding reduction on Tuesday. That was the entire context of the debate. I mentioned it over and over again. It's not true that this is somehow a surprise if the gentleman was listening. As to the claim that this is agreement that has been agreed to by all of the political insiders in the area, let me assure the gentleman from California that it is opposed by the overwhelming majority of voters, as tested in several local elections, including the formal opposition to the dam removal by the Siskiyou Board of Supervisors elected by the people of the region.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman from Arizona.
Mr. Chairman, I was listening. I did understand. Because even though I heard the words, the understanding I had with the chairman of the subcommittee and the reason we supported was that the reduction of funds was to the account, not the specific project. So I did listen. I did understand. And but today we are talking about prohibiting money for the study. And I have to tell you that this agreement is to study the potential removal of 4 privately owned dams, not the agreement to remove dams, and is designed to bring about significant improvements to both environmental conditions and water supply certainty, which need to be confirmed through the study. The studies are scientific. They deal with engineering and economic and environmental-based analysis to determine whether the promise of the agreement will occur. And for that reason, we oppose this amendment. And now yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman's time has expired. For the purpose does the gentleman rise? The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
I just want to say to the gentleman, the Oregon Public Utility Commission has ruled that from the standpoint of the rate-paying public, the settlement agreement is preferable to relicensing under the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, known as FERC, as the agreement caps ratepayer cost at $200 million, whereas fish passage cost, because these dams are old, could exceed $500 million, plus an additional $200 million for O&M. The amendment would force these costs on the rate-paying public without the benefit of accurate benefits and costs. And I just, being from the Northwest, I want you to know that sometimes, and they're just studying this dam removal, but sometimes by taking out dams, you can restore the original habitat and help the salmon recovery, as we're doing on the Elwha Dam project up in Washington State. And the reason we did it, because it was going to cost so much to fix up the dams, that it was actually cheaper to take them out and restore, and this became a major restoration project. So I wouldn't just assume that this is not a positive thing. So I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Oregon. I can't yield 1 minute. I yield to the gentleman from Oregon.
I appreciate the gentleman's courtesy, and he is absolutely correct. What is being dealt with in the Klamath River Basin is unraveling a serious problem, because the federal government has promised more than Mother Nature can deliver. And part of what is being considered, and it is being supported broadly by Native Americans, there are business interests. We've been working with utilities in the North, a broad range of people in the community, and this is something that seriously needs to be studied and done right. There's a very strong likelihood that if it isn't done properly, there may well be something that happens in the Klamath River Basin where circumstances move ahead, and it's not done in the way that I think most people would like. So I appreciate the gentleman speaking.
And being from Oregon, you realize that it would do a lot potentially for salmon restoration.
It is a tremendous opportunity for the Klamath River Basin. It's a tremendous of Americans, for agriculture, for sports people, and to avoid the litigation and the political squirrel cage that we are in. And if you go down there and visit it, you find, as I know my good friend from California has, it's a tremendous opportunity, and this amendment is really would be a mistake.
Thank you, my friend. Reclaiming my time, I will yield to the gentleman from California to respond.
I thank the gentleman.